What do the Chiefs do now? A lot of tension about Rashee Rice. How do they react? And what does it do for what we think the draft has to look like? Welcome back to RGR Football. I'm Ryan. This is me going rogue on the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL. Make sure you like and sub and hit the bell here. We're going to get after it today. This is going to be pre-recorded because I have stuff tonight that I have to do family-wise that we're going to go through after the news Sunday morning. I had to scrap what I had already recorded as a scenario, and we're going to take it a fresh concept here of what the Chiefs might have to do in lieu of what happened this morning. Late last evening, and the news that came out Sunday about Rashee Rice, and we have no idea what it's going to mean. I'm sure you've seen it. We did a live stream on Locked On Chiefs. If you didn't get a chance to see that, gave you what we knew at the time, but wasn't much. And as of now, haven't done much else. Not a lot of clarity coming yet. So we're going to just kind of work around here, and I'm going to try to run a couple of scenarios. We'll see how much time we get to. But we are going to attack it right now on a mock draft. And that's the concept is what if the Chiefs have to go and change their draft plans? This happened once before when Tyreek Hill was facing something off the field, and it led to the McCole Hardman selection. Could they be in a similar situation? That's going to be the question. I went through a scenario on the Locked On Chiefs mock draft tonight for Monday morning. And that's where I kind of overreacted, and I went out with how I would stretch the defense and try to use speed over the top. It's a possibility. It's an option. It's not the only option. So I'm going to try to just roll with the punches here on this guy and see what happens. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start this off, and we're going to see what happens. And as it runs through, what we end up here, I should blow this up here, folks. Try to give you a good view of it. And this is what we get. And that is first round selections getting made, making progress for us. I'll widen that out, try to get you a full view of it and give you what I think is the best options. Now, so Caleb, Drake May, Jaden Daniels go 1, 2, 3. Receivers, Neighbors, Harrison right next. Alt, Adunze. We get Jared Verse in there. Olufashinu comes off. A guy that I like for the Chiefs in terms of fit, but I don't think he'll be available. Then you get Latham, Fautanu, and Fuaga, all three in a row, right there at 14, 15, 16. So halfway through the round, and all the top tackles are gone. Tyler Guyton, Amarius Mims, the last two that I could see fringe first rounders that could grow into it. Now, Mims obviously has a health issue, injury history, and is a right side. I think Guyton can actually play left. Barton I actually have listed as a guard, so I wouldn't count him here. And as we work down, we see Len McConkey goes 30th, and Jordan Morgan, another guy that I think will most likely end up inside, but is fringe, could play tackle, most likely as a guard for me. Now we're on the clock at 32, and I'm going to try not to trade around too much here in this one because – let's take the worst case scenario. The Chiefs can't get any trade partners. What do? If they're facing time without Rashee Rice, I think that flips the priority, and offensive tackle is something they're going to have to come back and get in the second round. They're going to have to find somebody to go fight with Wani Morris for playing time. The loser to become the backup, the swing tackle, and that's perfectly fine. In this scenario, a number of receivers did fall, but Adonai Mitchell is not one of them. Now, this isn't quite as burning as Xavier Worthy was for me, but I think what it does give you is part of my general concept in that I want to stress the field deep. I want to flood it in certainly in 11 personnel, but as we get more receivers on the field, if you can push deep with speed, and Adonai Mitchell doesn't play as fast on film at Texas as he does in terms of timing. But if the Chiefs can start to unleash that, I think you bring McCole Hardman back and you got three guys that are sub 4.4 they're all 4-3 somethings. You can attack deep. And if teams want to sit back there and cover 4, and cover 3, and cover 6, and just try to play cloud, keep everything in front of them, we can make them get out of that with 3 speed demons on the field at once. Now, it'll be about play design, route structure, etc. But having that kind of skill on there gives you, when you run, 4 verts like they like to run a lot, usually it's Travis Kelce running the other route. They have to pay attention to all that speed. So I think that helps Travis. If it's Sky Moore, if it's Kadarius Toney, I think that helps them as well. When Rashee Rice returns, it will only help him as well. So in lieu of having what you hope is year 2, free and away of your guy, Rashee Rice, I think the next best thing is try to take speed. And so with the Donnie Mitchell, Adonai, however you pronounce his name, with him on the board here, I think we actually forego that, because I did Xavier Worthy on the other draft for Locked On Chiefs. So go check that out tonight as well. But let's take Adonai Mitchell, and get him on the roster. Now we've addressed what I think has now become the bigger need, the need that just has to get taken care of, that has to be addressed, and we get to come back. So again, not doing trades in this scenario, but we come back at 64, and we have some options. Kieran, I cannot pronounce Kieran's name yet. And here's the thing. As much as I've been able to get some small school film, I haven't been able to get Yale at all. So I don't have anything other than a couple of broadcast clips. So I'm not comfortable giving him a grade. And right now, I'm not even going to consider him, just because I haven't laid eyes on him. I don't know if that's a total reach or what. Obviously, the second and third Washington receivers are here. I find that interesting. Had we flipped it, I like them both as the second round pick. We get into Kyrie Jackson, who I think is interesting, but I don't think can be a priority here. This has got to be interior defense, or this has got to be wide receiver. Offensive tackle. One of the two here, because I don't think when we get back to 95, we're going to have either option. So let's take a look. And offensive tackle, Patrick Paul is there. Looks like he's probably going before we're going to get a chance to get back on the board. And Devondre Sweat. Devondre Sweat is a guy that not only do I like as a second round pick, but somebody that Chris Jones and Charles Omeni, who seem to like a lot. I did that on the Chiefs draft. If you want to see that, go check that out as well, because I want you to see how that falls through. I'm not going to go there right now, because I think it's still XYZ. It's still number 1, number 2 priorities that we want to take care of. And I like Patrick Paul as a developmental tackle that can push Wanya Morris, can battle with him. It could be a swing in the end if he can't win it. So I'm tempted here to take him, even though according to PFF, this is low. I don't think that it is. I think Patrick Paul is probably a fringe right there at the end of the second, exactly where we're picking. The last of the developmental tackles that I really like. Punia, I think I would play inside, although I like him from KU. Christian Jones is a markedly more developmental prospect. I think Patrick Paul has a chance here. And I know I've picked him before, but I'm going to go with it now because I just did Devondre Sweat. We'll come back on another scenario and check him out here in a minute. And let's see how that falls to us and what's left at the other positions of need. Again, knowing that we've swapped and we've gone wide receiver first round, we've gone offensive tackle second round, and now we're back on the clock at 95. And Pony is still here. We could bolster the offensive line yet again if we wanted to. I think was Mahogany's here as well, another guard option. There's another guard that I'm going to try to pick up later that I just watched in the last few days, and I do like him, and I do like him as a Trey Smith type guy that I'm getting pretty excited about the possibility of the Chiefs selecting. We have corner need that we could probably bolster as well. It's not a drastic need, but it's up there. Lots of options here, especially early. DJ James and Chris Abrams-Drain, I think, obviously, along with Cam Hart, are going to be pretty good options there. We could go to, let's take that out and go look at the defensive interior guys, because that's where I'm starting to think, hey, maybe Dwayne Carter, certainly Mason Smith, who Joe Cullen spent a lot of time with last week. I think that's impressive. Something that I definitely want to keep an eye on. And there's another guy that I'm going to have to pay attention to as well that I don't think is on the board any longer, but I will get to that. In terms of Joe Cullen, he's been traveling quite a bit to take a look at the defensive line prospects. That's important. We do have a couple of trade offers. We could move back to 101 or 103. I don't know what that's going to gain us much. And it wouldn't be something that I'd be terribly excited about. That's not much of a gain, except it is a whole nother pick right in the middle of the picks that we have. But like I said, we're not going to trade this draft. We're going to stay to our core here. And so as much as I like the idea of adding a player like Pooney to bolster the inside, I think we can do another guard later. And at this point, I want to take a look at the best player that can actually get on the field. Not Mahogany, apologies. I want to get to, where did he go? Do we double dip at wide receiver? I like Cowing in the third. I think that's a good spot for him. I think he grows the offensive firepower. Again, I don't want to overreact to just this news today, but that's a possibility. Abrams Drain is a possibility for sure. We get down here. We're looking at Malik Washington could be a guy. Edges, falling down some boards here a little bit. I think in the end, what I'm going to want to do, probably more so than most, is take a look and just take the best guy that is available of these two position groups. And is that Jerry Jones? I'm not sure that I agree with that. Is it DJ James? It could be. Is there any tight end that I'm interested in? A lot of guys that I think we could pick up later. So let's go the best player available, and we'll use their chart. I can live with that. So we are going to go Jerry Jones, the corner. We're going to add him in there. That's at 95. We're coming back. We have a little bit to go, but we're going to come back at 131 and get another bite at the apple. This is where things start to look for me like, do you double up at one of the big positions? Do you want to go back to offensive tackle? Maybe Christian Jones, who's still available here. Walter Rouse is another Oklahoma Sooner that's a project. But you see why I went Patrick Paul earlier. Not much left here at this point. And if we disregard that and we go back to wide receiver, there's still others. Rosemary Jackson caught everything in the Senior Bowl. I think Dan and I both like him. Luke McCaffrey's down here, does have some speed as well. A lot of folks have been pushing for Anthony Gold lately. I like that. I still like Jordan Whittington as well, a kid that I think could come in and be a possession receiver for you and move the sticks pretty well. I also want to see, yes, that's where we start to get into the Ben Sinats of the world. Braylon Allen, I like here on day 3. That makes me kind of happy. He's a guy that I don't think he's a one-for-one, but it provides a similar style to Isaiah Pacheco that I think can help you. You guys have seen me take Will Shipley before. I do like him at this area as well. But if we want to get explosive, we could go Garendo. I think he might hold on and hang out. But I think the guy right now, knowing that we have to come back on 159 to take, is Mason Smith, who did spend a lot of time with Joe Cullen this week. And I think that's key because you can see, you can run a drill, but if you don't have a lot of feedback, if there's not a lot of back and forth at a pro day like that, it's just an evaluation. If you have a lot of back and forth with the prospect at that point, I do feel that means Joe Cullen has some interest. I think that works. I think Zach Zinter is probably the best guard prospect on this board. Drake Nugent is a center, by the way. Okay. This is IOLs. I think Drake Nugent is a little bit probably more likely to go, given Zinter's coming off a significant injury. I think both of these are pretty low, though. The guy that I'm looking to come back for, I do like Bertolini's game. I do like Hanson's game. And I like Layden Robinson. We're going to come back and get him later, knowing that we can come back late. He's the guy that I do think looks a little bit like Trey Smith to me on film at times. Very inconsistent, but at times that could work. So what do we have here? We have some running backs. We have Miles Murphy still back in here. We have Shaheem Bell. What are the tight ends looking like here at this point? I think it's a good spot. Theo Johnson, Tip Ryman, two guys that can get down the field. I like that. I'm going to go Johnson. I think that's a value pick here. We have 2 picks remaining in this scenario, And then I think we'll try to run another one real quick. Tyron Tracy's got some get up and go, and I'd love to see somebody with Tracy on the back of their jersey end up in a Kansas City uniform. You guys know that. Anybody else standing out here at the top? Harrell is, I think somebody can give you a little bit of pass rush, but I think it's overlapping BJ Thompson's role a little bit. And BJ's a little bit of a better athlete, at least from what I've been able to put together in terms of the Matrix. The Matrix is coming together for version 2. The draft guide is coming together. You guys are going to get all of that. Make sure you're over on rogueapc.com and you use that code RGR when you're ready. Solomon Byrd, Anthony Gold, those are some guys that stand out as having some decent grades that could be developmental players that we like. Tyron Hopper is there and Bortolini is there. But I think in the end, I want somebody with some get up and go, somebody that can add to the backfield. And I'm going to go Tyron Tracy again, just to get the namesake onto the roster. We're going to come back and we're going to see if it's the interior offensive line that could maybe give us some value here, or if there's something else that stands out. Bortolini is there. I don't think there's any way he lasts this long. I think he is a zone interior offensive lineman waiting to happen. But I'm going to take the guy that I really like if he's here and available. He may not be. He didn't go in the last 3 picks, but let's take a look. Layden Robinson. I think he could be a steal that late, so I'm going to do it. We're going to take a look at this and run one more scenario here just to go through another option. But as this ticks down, let me know what you guys think, obviously in the chat. But if you're watching this after the fact, make sure you leave a comment and let me know what you're thinking here. Let me widen this out. We can take a look at what at least some grades are going to give us. Again, this is a relative grade against what PFF thought that they were worth. So in the end, a lot of mid-round grades, a couple of what they would call reaches in Paul and Layden Robinson. That's fine. I thought Jaron Jones would be a better selection there. This is certainly one scenario that could happen, but let's take a look at another. And looks like I zoomed in, or I made that window way too small. So we are going to fix that real quick, hopefully. And if not, we're going to have to adjust some other way in order to get this to look right. So right now, like, sub, hit the bell. If you're new to this channel and you're not in the memberships, you might want to consider that too, because you get a lot of extra content that way. And we do a lot of content around here. Gary's going to have something special for you this week. He's starting to look at all the theoretical data for the draft as well. He's got the history down, so don't miss Gary later this week. Film room from Dan, and obviously I'm going to have more pieces for you as well. So let's do this. We are on the clock. I'm going to take this down to fast just so we can see it tick. And we're going to go through another scenario here. First few comes off 4 quarterbacks in the top 6. Couple wide receivers and Dallas Turner. That seems plausible. We get to 17. Fautanu goes. Fuaga goes. I think I have Fuaga much lower. I think I'm closer to where Nate Tyson and I are, right there on the edge of the first round, if at all. Rome goes. Fashanu. So a lot of tackle interest here so far. Not going to trade up here. Unless we got to like here, Green Bay, you can see more tackles. Mims, Barton, Brian Thomas did go. So I thought maybe he was another guy that could offer some speed if we chose to trade up. We could take a look with what the Packers would want, and we'll have to make them an offer. Going up to 25 shouldn't be super uber expensive. Might be able to give him, a late round pick. 31 ought to do that if we wanted to do it. Or I could give him a 5th from next year, maybe a 4th from next year. Yeah. See if a 4th can get that done and move up a few spots. And it did. Okay, we'll take it. That was a bit of a strange one, but we'll take it. We're on the clock here, and we're going to take a look again at our pictures. Adonai Mitchell, there again. Okay. Ladd McConkey, there again. Troy Franklin, there again. Ricky Pearsall. If we traded down, I would have said Ricky Pearsall's an option that can blend in here with this team. Now we go to offensive tackle. Tyler Guyton is still on the board. Now, again, with the concept that it's wide receiver is now the primary need, I think we probably need to look at that, although Guyton is a guy that at 25, I think the Chiefs could live with pretty well. That would make some sense to me. But this is 2 drafts in a row where Adonai Mitchell is on the board. We might as well take him. He's going to be the guy that I'm going to have to put on the cover of this because that worked out, I think, in a way that we could see. So similar scenario here. We made one other change, not affecting the rest of our draft picks this year, but we did that. We've got a couple of trade out options. One moving back with the Patriots, 68. What would we get for it? I don't know that that's worth it. So I would give you a 7th if you'd take it. We could get 103 back for 173, and I'm perfectly fine with that if we could pull that. But let's see if there's a player that we would like to take. So Jonathan Brooks out there, we're looking specifically, again, at offensive tackle with our second selection. And maybe we should just bite the bullet and go with our guy from Yale and take a chance. If you take a look at his statistics and the jump that he made in 2023, that is something to be considered. Now, the level of competition is not much when you see that there are only 5 pressures he gave up. That's a lot to do with the fact he played 4 games, and he's playing at a level of competition that is just not drastically there. You can see Holy Cross was one of those games that he played very well in. I'm not terribly happy with that. So, again, I'm not going to pull the trigger on that. I changed my mind. Not going to do it. Blake Fisher, I think we can come back for here in a bit. So let's open up the board again and double check. Christian Hayes, I think he's a nice interior player. I do like him. Kyrie Jackson in the corner. Sweat again. We could move back and pick up Sweat yet again and go back-to-back Texas players. I don't know. Maybe that's worth it. And we'll see what we can get for it. Okay, so I want the 103. I'm going to give you 64, and I'll give you something else. I don't want to come out. Oh, I'd love to take advantage of the Broncos, but they're too far back. So I am going to roll the dice at moving up from 173 to 103 and see if they'll pull the trigger on that. They did not. Oh, but they did the second time. Just took a second phone call. Okay, great. So we're going to move back 4 spots. They took Jaden Hicks. They could have had Chris. Then Kyron went. And so we're back on the board here, having picked up 103, which means we have 4 selections now. No, 3 selections in the next 35 picks. That's a pretty good scenario. I do like that. There's still trade options here, but I don't want to go back from 68 to 83. So we are taking a player here. And at that point, I think it needs to be Sweat. Again, things are ringing up terribly similar today. We're going to see who's available at 95 as we work our way down. And Paul did go just a few selections ahead of us. So now we are in the position where we don't have necessarily a great selection. Pooney could come in and play tackle. Christian Jones would probably be my next option there. So we are thin on the ground. We can probably take Pooney and move on to 103, which is only 8 selections later. Let's see what we have for trade options. Steelers want to come up 3. Well, it's going to cost you, bro. And they are not willing to do that. They'll give up 178. Of course they will, because that's a worthless pick. So, yeah, I don't know. Oh, that's interesting. So we could change 159 to 119. I think Pooney goes, though. So I'm not going to give him to Pittsburgh. I think what we're going to do is just go with Pooney and get somebody that we feel can push Wanye a little bit, can fill in at guard with Joe Tooney out. That's another option. We're trying to see here. Let's see. Leofua Fau, sorry, pronounced that wrong. Went. Eric All, the Iowa tight end. Everybody loves an Iowa tight end. I'm not sure just how much they're going to love it this year. Van Pelt. There we go. I do like this concept of adding a big body Adonai Mitchell and combining him with an additional selection we got in a trade with Jacob Cowan that I think can bolster into that wide receiver group, give Patrick Mahomes another option. That's what I'm looking for. Again, I think a lot of these guys are, if Rashee Rice has to miss the season or miss a good portion of the season, we won't know for quite a bit. I feel what a suspension might look like, etc. Let's give it a few more options. I think a lot of the experimentation is probably going out the window. I know there's Nico Remilio coming back. Obviously, Justin Ross is still there. Sky, KT, Rashee. I think you still want to take a double shot at the wide receiver spot and give that a try. That at 131, I am squarely looking at the defensive interior to see who is left. McKinley, maybe. Wingo. Mason is here again. We just took him. Jordan Jefferson's here. He's been falling down draft boards quite a bit. I'm a little surprised by that, but he was the premier player. But why don't we switch that up and let's go with Jackson from Texas A&M, another player that Joe Cullen has spent some time with recently. So I kind of dig that. Going to go with that theme here for my day. And you can see things are falling very, very similarly. We probably could have gotten away with just one here. But if Trey Smith is going to go into free agency, Zach Zinter, as long as he can recover, it was a tib-fib fracture. It's significant, but I think this is crazy that he'd even be here, but I can't walk away from it. So we're going to select him and kind of roll with the punches and come down to our 221 pick and really see if there is a selection worth making that we can get done. Now, that doesn't mean that this is the way that it's going to fall every time, but it does feel like this is likely something that we could see as a scenario. Let me change the window shape, and we'll get this so that it's visible for everyone. So we come down. We are at 221, and at this point, it is just best player available. Jace McClellan has had some speed. He's got some injuries. Mayan Williams, same thing. Nobody's standing out so far. I do like CJ Hansen, but we just took a guard, so I'm not going there off the bat. We have multiple wide receivers in this draft already. We have multiple linemen. Tanner McLaughlin, interesting. Trey Knox. Who's the best athlete available? That's what it's coming down to. There's my guy, Layden. Let's see what the corner group looks like. See if we can bolster that with anybody that stands out. Another La Tech prospect, by the way. I haven't been able to watch Willie Roberts yet, but he's on my list. There's just something interesting about that happenstance with L'Jarius being traded away and trying to get a good look at that. So it's running back maybe. Fenwick, Carson Steele, Josh Williams. Nobody that really excites me there. McClellan I would agree, probably the best of this group, but not somebody that I'm chasing down right now. Whoop. JJ Weaver is not somebody I meant to click on. Zion's a total redevelop, in my opinion. I don't think that he's something the Chiefs would be interested in, but let's look. No, I keep going back to edge. I want to look at linebacker. Just to give some depth. Darius Mausau, I believe. Interesting player that could come in and disrupt either Cole Christensen or Jack Cochran, play some special teams, has enough oomph to maybe bolster what they're going to have to do. I do think Cam Jones is the fourth linebacker on this roster right now. I don't see a whole lot changing that, but that's okay. We'll see what they do. Let's add a little depth for special teams. Let somebody fight it out. The kickoff rules are definitely going to change things for Dave Toub and what he has to do. So we got to give Dave a fighting chance, right? So that he can get in order to get his job done. And that is get the special teams up where they belong. Get them so that they are visible. And so this is what we came back with. We did move around a little bit. We went up, got Adonai Mitchell, even though in the first scenario didn't have to do that. We come back with his teammate in Sweat. Pony Cowing on the 95 and 103 that we got in a trade around. So 4 top 103 players. I feel like that addresses some questions. We come back with McKinley, Zinter, and then Mausau. I think that's a viable option. It might not be as pretty as folks want, but that's okay. The Chiefs have to go through these scenarios. They're mocking these things up right now in order to come up with, okay, if we're going to be without Rashee, what do we do? Because he is wide receiver 1 in Kansas City. We have to come up with what our plan will be, and it can't be just Kadarius Toney. There is no around there. So I think, again, you guys let me know what you think in the comments. I think wide receiver has now become the top need just by a smidge until we know more about what's going to happen with Rashee Rice. So that's why I took these two scenarios. Funny that that I was really trying to give options tonight, and it ended up falling the same way, despite all of my my efforts. So thank you guys for being here. Let us know what you think. We're going to be back Q&A Monday night as we always are at 6. Look out this week for more content coming. I'm wrapping up getting the Matrix prepped as we are doing the same thing for the Athletic Matrix draft guide as well. So get prepped. More on NFL 33. I have a great interview coming this week here on this channel, part of it on NFL 33. So go get subbed over there, and I think you'll enjoy the breakdown. Some Chiefs specific here, some a little bit wider point of view with Randy Mueller, former NFL GM and exec of the year. So a lot coming there. If you go get that Matrix ordered, use the code RGR. It'll get you a nice discount, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you for being with me tonight. We're going to try to get back to doing these live here in the next coming weeks as we run up to the draft so we can react together. So let me know your thoughts. Have a great weekend, Sunday evening, getting into the week. Have a great week. And I'll